In 1949, an English author by the name of George Orwell published a novel titled 1984. When it first came out, most readers thought this was science fiction. However, perceptive individuals know that the plot is playing out right now, today, in America. 1984 focuses on the consequences of living in a totalitarian state with its mass surveillance and the repressive regimentation of people and behaviors within a totalitarian society. Orwell's novel popularized the term Orwellian. This presidential administration is Orwellian. Words and phrases from the novel are popping up today: Big Brother, Thought Police, and Newspeak, and many others. An ever-intrusive government is driven to control all aspects of our lives in the name of safety and security. Free speech, the right to bear arms, private property, freedom of religion are all under attack. From traffic light cameras to phone tapping, from weaponized law enforcement agencies to a mad hatred of pro-life Christians, the government is unfettered in its evil desire to turn us all into helpless automatons. Republican Senator Tim Scott blasted the Biden administration for targeting certain religious purchases. Financial institutions were asked to flag transactions that use terms such as MAGA or Trump, in addition to Bible purchases and even general purchases at stores like Cabela's and Dick's Sporting Goods. Moral values with roots in the Bible are now called racist and hate-mongering. In his book, The Cost of My Faith, How a Decision in My Cake Shop Took Me to the Supreme Court, Colorado baker Jack Phillips retold his long, painful story. When Phillips opened Masterpiece Cake Shop in 1993, he gave it a name that reflected his intentional blending of culinary skill and artistic talent, all for the glory of God. He found that free expression and art now have to conform to a politically correct ideology. Phillips tells how two men who walked into his cake shop and requested he create a custom cake for their same-sex wedding changed his life forever. Why not just make the cake? Submitting would have been much less traumatic than facing the relentless harassment and death threats. Christian bakeries are on the sights of the woke left. Lesbians and the California Civil Rights Department have declared war on a Christian bakery owner in Bakersfield. The owner declined to create a wedding cake. Instead, she referred the lesbians to another bakery that was more than happy to make the cake. Fortunately, Kathy Miller, owner of Tastries Bakery, prevailed in court. However, the decision is being appealed by pro-lesbian activists. Recently, 6 more pro-life activists were convicted for violating the freedom of access to clinic entrances. These peaceful protesters are now facing the possibility of crushing fines and 11 years in jail. They were doing what civil rights activists did throughout the South in the late 1960s. They were called sit-ins. They were nonviolent, as were the pro-life protesters. A tidal wave of totalitarianism and a rejection of the God-given rights in our Constitution has led many to cry out, "This is not the country I once knew and loved." If the average citizen pays attention, that citizen will see a takeover of America by people who have some bizarre ideas about what will fix America's problems. Mr. Biden wants the border open, and he has a welcome mat out for murderers and rapists, yet he wants to disarm America's law-abiding citizens. With no regard for Americans, Biden's border policies make about as much sense as his Wisconsin brewery speech.
And by the way, it used to make the beer brewed here. It is used to make the brew beer in this refinery. Oh, Earth Rider, thanks for the Great Lakes. I wonder what he's talking.
As he continued to speak, he started bumbling. "The beer brewed here, it is used to make the brew beered here," he said. While most of the sentence is unintelligible, he seemed to add the words, "Oh, Earth Rider, thanks for the Great Lakes. I wonder why." Our president is amazing. Most people talk like that after smoking pot. Our president can do it without any drugs whatsoever. But it's far worse than Orwell could ever imagine. Right has now become wrong, and closing down a store to avoid financial ruin is now called racism. Pharmacies across our country have been targeted by smash-and-grab thieves. Many pharmacies have been forced to close down. Walgreens in Roxbury, Massachusetts is one of the stores shutting down. Believe it or not, Representative Ayanna Pressley says Walgreens is racist. In a typically left-wing rant, Pressley said, quote, "These closures are not arbitrary and they are not innocent. They are life-threatening acts of racial and economic discrimination." Pressley seems to believe that Walgreens has a constitutional obligation to go out of business. A Stamford, Connecticut school board ignited a firestorm after voting to remove the Veterans Day and Columbus Day holidays. Students are expected now to attend class on those traditional holidays. On X, someone wrote, "Why stop there? Eliminate Washington's birthday, Memorial Day, 4th of July, Thanksgiving, and Christmas." In a more startling move, the state of Connecticut has mandated that tampon dispensers be installed in high school boys' bathrooms. In one Connecticut high school, a dispenser was ripped off the wall 20 minutes after it was installed. The principal of the Brookfield High School said this was vandalism that was, quote, "the work of immature boys." The next presidential election can lead to the quick and painful death of America. Folks, it is no joke. We need to pray and pray and pray, but we also need to vote, talk to our friends and neighbors, and look at informative shows like this one.